Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to take a closer look at your favorite semiconductor, Intel. Did Intel just save the semiconductor market? We'll have to see, but they did save their earnings. We can see after hours the stock is up roughly 6%. On today's episode, what I want to do is take a quick level on the earnings of what we know so far. Later on today or tomorrow, I will be doing a closer look at their earnings call. You guys know how I'd like to do a nice deep dive. And so let's get started with today's episode. So Intel, if we take a closer look, they did give us their total quarter three, obviously revenue, $14.2 billion. That was down 8% year over year. If we do take a closer look at what analysts were expecting somewhere around $13.6 billion. So we do see that Intel did be on analyst expectations. The company also did give us earnings per share of 41 cents. And I actually think this slide might be better for everybody out here. Earnings per share, 41 cents on a non-GAAP basis. And if we take a closer look, analysts were looking at roughly 22 cents here. So the company did be on earnings and they did be on revenue as well. So this is definitely a nice turnaround story for Intel. We do see gross margins are flat on a year-over-year basis, and they were also a little bit above the July outlook.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
So it does seem like, hey, look, Intel's turnaround story is happening. I do think one of the major things that is happening in the semiconductor space is we have hit the bottom in the PC client market, and the PC client market is such an important segment for Intel right now that this is obviously helping them kind of see that nice boost in revenue, the nice boost in earnings per share, and then nice boost in gross margins. So overall, if you are a semiconductor investor and you're invested in a company that deals with the desktop market, the laptop market, out of these results right now, it does seem like things are going to be good on our end. So this makes me a little bit bullish for AMD. Obviously, I am an AMD shareholder, but like I mentioned, today I want to take a closer look more on Intel. The other thing that was pretty interesting and important for Intel was their quarter 4 2023 outlook. Quarter 4 2023 outlook was $14.6 to $15.6 billion, so a midpoint of roughly 15.2 if I'm correct, and that would be an 8% year-over-year growth. I can't remember when was the last time Intel was actually growing in revenue. Again, I do believe this has to bode well with the consumer market and the client market picking back up. And if we take a better look, analysts were expecting somewhere around 14.3, 14.4. So Intel does be on expectations here from what analysts were expecting, even on their lower end, right? On their lower end is still about $200 million more than what analysts were expecting. So this bodes well. We can see gross margins 46.5%. Is that very similar to what is at right now? Yeah, 45.8. So a little bit growth. We're seeing some more growth in gross margins. Again, now that client segment is not bleeding too much, that can overall help with the company in forms of gross margins, in forms of earnings per share. So we do see gross margins are expected to be up 2.7 percentage points, and we also see earnings per share are expected to be up almost 200% on a year-over-year basis. So overall, things are looking pretty well. Now I want to take a closer look at segments, but first, let's look at the executive summary. They do mention, look, quarter 3 beat on revenue, gross margins, and earnings per share. The main reason is they saw a nice sequential revenue growth in client, in edge, in foundry, and server revenue was also up quarter over quarter. I'm pretty interested with that server revenue. Maybe companies are back to spending money on AI and non-AI solutions. The other thing I wanted to mention is I wish Intel would have given us this slide a lot longer earlier. So here we can see the company is breaking down their 5 nodes in 4 years. Intel 7 is complete with Sapphire Rapids. We can see Intel 4 is coming out with Meteor Lake, and that's expected to be out this December 14th when the company releases Meteor Lake. Then we have Intel 3 in the first half of 2024 with Sierra Forest and Granite Rapids, and the list goes on and on. This is stuff we've known already, but I do believe I wish Intel would have I wish Intel would have showed us this slide a lot better or a lot earlier, because it does kind of give us a great representation of what to expect with each node. We can see client computing revenue was down 3% on a year-over-year basis, and they do mention right now they are seeing a stabilization on OEM inventory, and they do mention that operating income higher on reduced inventory reserves and spending discipline. So it does seem like we have reached the bottom, and now we're kind of in that trickle uptrend for the client computing market. And I do mention, like I mentioned, this is very, very bullish, in my opinion, for companies like AMD. The data center market was down 10%. Obviously, the reduced CPU total addressable market, and they're still seeing that competitive pressure. At the end of the day, there's no escaping that AMD, at least for the moment, still has the technological lead when it comes to server CPUs, even except maybe when we look at AI workloads. I think that's the only part right now that Intel's really providing a nice tech lead. But for everything else, I do believe AMD is winning here. They do mention that right now, obviously, operating income is up versus a year ago. Now they're profitable again here. Operating margins are still pretty cheap at 2%, or pretty low at 2%. This is to be expected, right? This is a company that's investing a lot and a lot of money on new data center solutions. We saw their pipeline, and that's obviously going to eat up on their operating income. The only other one I really wanted to take a closer look at was their Intel Foundry service that was up nearly 300% year-over-year, mainly recent on higher packaging and IMS tool sales. So it's pretty much at the moment still a tool business because of their IMS solution with their EUV masking machine, right? So I do have a few other things that I want to take a closer look at here on Intel and some of the business highlights. So like I mentioned, Intel 3 is on track in manufacturing readiness by the end of the year. Intel 4 is in high volume production right now. Intel 20A on track and expected to achieve manufacturing readiness in the first half of 2024. And Intel 18A on track for manufacturing readiness in the second half of 2024. I think it's pretty interesting. It will be pretty amazing if Intel continues on this track of not much delays happening here, and it definitely bodes well for the company's management at the moment. Now, some customer and partner wins. I highlighted the ones that I thought were pretty interesting and the ones I'm most excited about, even though I'm not an Intel shareholder. But first, they did make a meaningful progress with an early IFS customer, with a major customer committing to Intel 18A and Intel 3. So I wish we hear about what customer this is. So this is something that maybe they might share during the earnings call. Maybe we would just have to wait and see once that becomes a public announcement. But that is definitely very bullish for the company's manufacturing aspect. Some other cool things: Amazon, their EC2 instances are available now, powered by a custom, and I thought that was pretty interesting that Intel and Amazon worked together to create a custom 4th generation Intel Xeon processor with Intel accelerator engines. Some other things: Dell Technology, a big kind of server maker, it announced that Dell's Power Edge system is powered by Intel Xeon and Intel Gaudi, and they will obviously be meant to support AI workloads and large language scale training to the edge. The other big news that I have is the Stability AI. This is a huge AI company, and Intel will build one of the world's largest AI supercomputer entirely on 4th generation Intel Xeon scalable processors and 4,000 Gaudi 2 AI hardware accelerators. So overall, we are seeing some good news here for Intel, not just in the CPU market, but also in the GPU market. Now, taking a closer look, Intel's 5th generation Xeon processor expected to launch on December 14th. Sierra Forest expected to launch on the first half of 2024. And another big news for Intel that we did see in Intel Innovation is they demonstrated the world's first multi-chip package using Universal Chiplet Interconnect Express. So this is this kind of Lego piece of chip creation happening. And Intel, in their Intel Innovation 23, showcased that they created one chip, and TSMC designed another part of the chip. And with that Lego design style, they were able to connect both chips together to create some amazing solutions. So I am super excited where that's going to lead in the semiconductor space. Overall, we are seeing Intel investors are happy with the results. The stock is sitting at roughly $34.50, up 6%. The only thing I want to say is right now it is a very, very red market, especially in the tech space, with everything like interest rates, with macroeconomics. So even though these results are bullish right now, by the end of the day or by tomorrow, those results can kind of turn around. We saw it with Meta, right? Meta Platforms did some amazing results, but unfortunately, those results, even though they had good after-hour results, the company, I think today was down on the day. So that obviously can happen for Intel. I just want to take a closer look at how other semiconductor companies might be reacting to this news. AMD is up roughly 0.77%. I do want to say these results, in my opinion, are very, very bullish for AMD. So I expected AMD to be up a little bit more. NVIDIA is pretty much flat, down 1.1%. Obviously, if you're selling more PC, laptops, more desktops, you're most likely selling more consumer GPUs as well. So in one way or another, this can also be bullish for NVIDIA's consumer market. But at the end of the day, right now, the investment community doesn't care about NVIDIA's consumer market. We only care about the data center market. So I do believe maybe for that reason, NVIDIA is not seeing that much of a bullish trend from these results. Overall, I'm super happy for Intel investors, and overall for the semiconductor industry. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.